Welcome back to the channel, my freedom loving two-way supporting patriots. Back with another Sunday Thoughts video for you. And this one I wanted to go over the bill, HR 127, if you guys haven't heard about it. It is a extremely dangerous bill for the Second Amendment and could potentially end the Second Amendment depending how you look at it. At the very least, it would, in my opinion, take the Second Amendment from being a right to a privilege. Where we all know it's a right, it's in the Constitution. It's the Second Amendment in the Constitution. So HR 127, they're calling it the Sabika Sheikh Firearms Licensing and Registration Act. Hopefully I didn't butcher that name too bad. It's going to be sponsored by Representative Sheila Jackson Lee out of Texas. And so what this bill is seeking to do is to provide the licensing of firearms and ammunition possession and the registration of firearms, and to prohibit the possession of certain ammunition. And on there they say 50 caliber and above. So anything larger, 50 cal and above would be banned and illegal. How they would go about figuring that out and wording it exactly, I'm not 100% sure. As 12 gauge slug, that's bigger than 50 cal. So it would kind of depend on how they go about interpreting that. It also seeks to have all guns registered. If you own a firearm at all, you'll have to register it and then go ahead and provide the government with your serial number, the model and make of it, where you purchased it, and when you purchased it. Now, I don't know about you guys. I can't remember all that stuff. I mean, I can usually remember where I purchased something, the exact date when I purchased it. I don't remember. If I buy a gun, get the paperwork and then it's gone. I'll get rid of the paperwork myself. I don't like to keep that kind of stuff around. So you would have to provide all of that to the government. All right. This bill would also require you to have 24 hours worth of training, $800 liability insurance that you would pay to the government for owning firearms. You'd have to meet with a licensed psychologist who would have to clear you to have your license and be approved to own a gun. So they're going to have 3 different kinds of licenses: general, military, and antique. General, I'm assuming, would be more your shotguns, lever guns, probably revolvers. From what I've read, military looks like it'd be, of course, any of their assault weapons, ARs, AKs, anything similar to that. And kind of from the wording I gathered from it, it would include handguns and pistols as well. Anything with like a detachable magazine, basically. So you'd have to meet with a psychologist and get cleared and be approved. And then if you wanted a military style weapon, which is what the majority of us would have, is, being concealed carrier permit holders and having pistols, then that psychologist can also basically interview anyone they want who you're associated with. So a spouse, kids, parents, anyone who you're currently living with. They can even interview your ex-spouses. So how many people, usually when you have an ex-spouse, it's because things didn't work out so well, and a lot of times, it's just hard feelings, and not everyone is okay with one another. Let's put it that way. So that person could easily go ahead and just ruin everything for you, and you could not be approved for that license. So what all this is going to do is all the information and stuff they collect is going to create a database of gun owners. It'll have what guns you own, how many guns you own. You're supposed to tell them where you keep it in your house, how it's stored. And now, we all know that's unconstitutional already. Registration leads to confiscation. But what's crazy about this is this database that it'll create is searchable to anyone, whether it be like law enforcement, government, even the public. So a neighbor, say, they could look up my name, know exactly what guns I have, where I keep them, and then what are they going to do with that information? How many criminals would love to have that kind of information and be able to target certain houses for their guns and firearms, and even, know where they're kept? So it's completely ridiculous. Also, if you were to go through with all this and get everything approved and you wanted to loan your gun, say I wanted to loan one of my guns to my sister or father, you have to contact the Attorney General, give them all your info, give all the info for the person you're going to loan the gun to, and then you have to wait on approval from the Attorney General. You have to get a letter back and hear back to see if you're approved to loan that item to that other person. So if Pops or sister was going to the range, and wanted to borrow one of my pistols to take to the range, I'd have to write the Attorney General first, contact them, and get approval. It's completely out of line. Say if you own a antique firearm now, that's gonna be a license for that, and so they want to know what kind of firearm it is. If you're the rightful owner, how did you come about this firearm? How is it going to be displayed if you had it on your wall? Is it going to be in a glass case or just hanging up on a shelf? How's it displayed and stored? What does that look like when it's displayed and stored? It's completely absurd. So supposedly, if this bill passes, all of that would have to be completed within 90 days of the law passing. So from my understanding is you'd have to get your training done, you'd have to pay your $800, you'd have to supply the government with all your guns, makes, serial models, when, where you got them, all within 90 days, and meet with a psychologist as well within 90 days for them to create this database. So with, there's an estimated 400 million guns out there. So say a third of the U.S., owns guns. So 110 million people. How are they going to create a database in 90 days to get all of that stuff in there? You go to the DMV and they have a hard enough time getting through stuff there. So how would they do all of that for, say 100 million gun owners within 90 days? It's impossible. There's no way they could do that. And it'd just be a hot mess and get drug out. And they wouldn't extend grace to anyone, of course, that, well, you didn't get it in within the 90 days, so you're screwed. That's just how they operate. So also included in this bill is a ban on all large capacity magazines that can be readily made or converted to hold 10 or more rounds of ammunition. So, Glock mags, P-mags, any kind of mags, 10 or more rounds, they're going to be illegal. They're gone. If, from my understanding from reading this bill, say if you have 10 round mags and it has a removable base plate and you say put a +2, +3 on it, then that would technically be illegal as well, because it's readily available to go ahead and be made to hold more than 10 rounds. And that's just my understanding on it. So that's kind of the nuts and the bolts of everything. And if you were not to comply with this or be found guilty in the court of law for not complying, the fines and penalties range anywhere from 1 to 40 years in prison, and then from $10,000 to $150,000 fine, or both the prison time and the fine. So they're seeking to get rid of everything, basically, make it so impossible to be a gun owner anymore that people aren't going to bother, and then collect $800 off of everyone. Government's all about those taxes and the money. And they're just looking to do, basically, pass all this legislation that makes it so hard to be a gun owner that you're not going to want to, that you'll give up on your rights. And so it's completely out of control, you guys. Like I said, I'll leave a link to the full bill down below in the description box, as well as a link to the FPC to go ahead and write the appropriate representatives in opposition of this. Literally takes like 2-3 minutes. And I highly suggest you guys, we need to support organizations like the FPC, GOA, your state, local organizations that are no compromise. We're going to be fighting now harder than we've ever fought before. The legislation, the bills they're going to be proposing and coming through are going to be hot and heavy for at least the next 2 years, until hopefully we can flip some seats in the House and Senate for the midterms. But we got to keep fighting, you guys. It's going to be tiring, but we can't ever give up. Can't ever give up on our rights and one another and each other's rights. So that's all I got for this one. I appreciate you as always, you guys. Thanks for watching, and God bless.